Hello, everybody. Welcome back to 10-Minute Reviews. I'm Jason. This is Freya that's taking up my spot.
And I'm Amy, happily in my spot.
And we're bringing you today's video. So as always, please hit those like and subscribe buttons. We're a small channel, just a little family channel, just trying to have fun. We'd love to talk about books and want to bring in more people. So we would appreciate
we also love puppies.
Any and all support that you might give us. Why are you pushing at me so hard? So
because you're in her spot.
She added a leg. So you're in my spot.
No.
So today I want to talk about the sequel, prequel, pre-sequel to one of my favorite books, actually. As always, I'm going to talk about four things. I'm going to talk about the world. I'm going to talk about the character, the plot, and the writing style. So, the world. The world is parallel to us, I suppose. It's modern times. There's cell phones and cars and computers and all that stuff. There's also superhumans. There's also superpowered beings, superheroes, supervillains, everything in between. It's a lot more of a gray area. Just because somebody is got superpowers and runs around and with tights and a cape doesn't mean that they're a good guy. Always. Doesn't mean that the bad guys are always bad. And this book definitely operates within the gray area. The character is mostly a bad-ish guy. Definitely has a code that he lives by and has helped people in the past. So the book I want to talk about is Into the Dark by Jan Stryvant. Now I talked about Shadow before, one of my favorite books, and definitely one of my favorite superhero books. Now the thing, and I haven't read Shadow in a few months. I've probably read it 20 times, but in a few months when I did the review, and I'd forgotten some of the salient points behind Shadow's personality. So I'm going to talk about the character. Before I talk about the plot of this book, just talk about the character and more info into Shadow. So Shadow is, as I talked about before, the anthropomorphic leopard. I thought it was a panther, but it turns out he's a leopard.
Panthers are just
yes, type of what the Black Panthers are.
Yes.
And he has multiple forms that he can transform into, from a healing form to a stealth form to his combat form to his martial arts form to a sex form. To a flying form. He created a flying form. So he's got all these different forms. He's independently wealthy because he's a genius, and he worked for major medical companies before he retired. But the thing about him that really really formulated him is the character's backstory, and it's very grim, especially for this type of book, for the harem-lit type of books. His backstory is very, very grim because as a preteen he was kidnapped and held for years by a pedophile. And that's when he finally escaped, and he escaped by finding his first cat form on accident. And, he didn't so much escape as he shredded, and then he escaped. And then he got himself combat training, and he became an avenger. But he only tracked and killed pedophiles. But he became a serial killer, basically. And in the events of Shadow, he basically retired. He had kind of finished his grand mission in a way, and he also was I think a late 20s, early 30s, or late 20s virgin, because he completely subsumed himself in either work or his nighttime hunting, and that was it. And then kind of a tryst with a secretary kind of introduced him to the finer things in life. So he had enough money, so he basically retired, and went and he went to a new town, kind of found the underworld. Now he wasn't a criminal-ish. I mean, obviously he was a serial killer, but he wasn't so much a criminal as just somebody that just wanted to be left alone and wanted to party. And as he says, the criminals, they're the best parties. So he was going to the underworld parties, and also because of who he is and the code he follows, he doesn't back down from a challenge, and he will finish a challenge. And so in the first book, he kind of grows. It's very slice of life, because in Shadow it's all almost like short stories. They're kind of braided together. They do follow each other, but they're all individual. And he basically grows. It's slice of life. He grows. Eventually marries a superhero, Angel. But he also but the mother of one of his children, Cersei, is a criminal. The mother of another one of his children, runs a brothel. The mother of another one of his children was his slave at one point, although consensually, ish. And I'm trying to remember. I think he's got a lot of kids. But anyway, so he kind of he ended up, and it turns out even through his time in the underworld, he was helping the main super team covertly. He would help them with information when he knew things that violated his code, especially pedophiles and stuff like that. But just hurt innocents. Basically, he will kill someone in a heartbeat if they threaten him, or threaten an innocent. But he will also fight for the innocent. So, definitely within the gray area. But I'm talking a lot about the first book, Into the Dark. Into the Dark is the sequel/prequel. And same thing, it's a bunch of short stories, but this talks about how he came a be. It's almost a braided anthology, but this is more like pieces of his life from different areas and parts of like Shadow that he cut out just because he didn't feel like it added value to the book, or maybe took away from other parts of the plot, so he didn't want to divert attention. But it covers a lot of different areas. And one of the more fascinating things to me, Shadow is just such a fascinating book. It's hard to articulate why, and why it just resonates with me, but I love the book. This actually starts out with it actually starts out in high school, but very, very, very briefly. And then goes on to his college time. So basically, his time now, at this point, he was already hunting at night. But he wasn't fully in control of the cat side, I guess you could say. He could turn into the cat, but then he might lose like weeks. Because cats are patient too, patient hunters. And it covers how he eventually gets the martial arts training he does, how he learns to create new forms, like his healing form and his stealth form and stuff like that. And also how he gets his money. And so it covers his college time, how he learns, how he trains. And then it also leads into his post-college time when he's this shit-hot scientist, all these patents to his name and just making his company millions of dollars, and he's just saving up money because he gets a cut while he's still hunting, while he's still doing his hunting for the pedophiles, and he's following a ring, and this ring is not worldwide but nationwide, and it kind of culminates in, I think, 2 senators and a chief of staff, and basically it's big politicians, stuff like that, and it kind of brings things full circle because he wraps up this pedophile ring that he's been slaughtering across the United States while being hunted by the FBI, of course. At the same time, he runs into the one person from the original ring that kidnapped him that he wasn't able to kill. So he kind of comes full circle. He completely wipes it out, goes up pretty as high up as you're going to get in the government, and also comes full circle with his own childhood and what had happened to him at that point. Plus he even killed some supers that were part of it. And it kind of leads right up to the point where Shadow starts, what prompted him to say, you know what, I feel like I've done my part, and now I'd like to just retire and have fun. So that's kind of what leads up into Shadow. But then there's also some post-Shadow stories. Mostly dealing with his many children, including, it turns out, one he was not aware that he had. Now, one of them is one that the short story, some people find a little cringy, I suppose, some of the elements of it, but the author is very, very, very clear in the book that those cringy parts are not at all what people may assume they are, and he's just much more going with the cat personality of the character, because the character is, while he does have a human form, by the time Shadow occurs, he very rarely, if ever, takes his full human form. He's usually the anthropomorphic cat, and that's his preferred form, and mostly because most of his personality is cat. They even say in the books that with what happened to him in his early life, his childhood, those years, then plus his time as a murder hobo, that really he should be insane. And the reason he's
Coping
not
mechanisms?
is the cat personality. The cat personality that is so strong. It's also why he has so many women. They start to refer to it as a pride, because he is the alpha cat. But just overall, it is. I won't say that it's better than Shadow, because I still read Shadow all the time, and I do think that I probably prefer Shadow over Into the Dark, but it's pretty close, because Into the Dark is really, really good. It really, really, really covers a lot of interesting things about Shadow and how he became what he became, and some of the things that occurred afterwards. So I do hope that the author continues to write about Shadow. I would be fascinated to read more stories about Shadow and the character, and definitely just Shadow, more Shadow. Can't get enough Shadow. So yeah, hope you guys find this interesting, illuminating, enlightening, or at the very least, just plain fun. And after you hit the like and subscribe buttons, go check out Jan Stryvant's Into the Dark, but only if you've read Shadow. If you haven't read Shadow, go check out Shadow. And we will catch you guys next time. Thanks for watching, everybody.
Bye.
Bye now.